Yes, please. Yes, now can start. I will request Professor Abdul Matin sir to begin our today's session. Over to you.
Good evening. I won't be taking much time, but we are really privileged and honored to have Asha Singh here. Dr. Asha Singh, right now presently associated with the Center for Studies of Social Science, Calcutta. And her basically her work is a new contributions to the entire field. And the kind of work she does, and we respect that a new intervention in the field of humanities and social science or cultural studies. Without much time, I mean, she has been associated with different kind of initiatives, including kind of journalism, and she had a very strong background of that. And her entire work is a kind of a new directions towards more inclusive understanding of society and culture. Well, Asha ma'am, we are really honored to have you here, and I'm sorry that our system is scheduled in such a way we are not able to do justice with our paper presenters. But I've been apologizing for this one, and welcome to Base Conference in collaborations with Ambedkar Center for Cultural and Social Studies, Gaur Mahavidyalaya, affiliated to University of Gaur-Bongo Malda, and also in collaborations with Department of English, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar College, University of Kalyani. So this is a 3-day webinar, and today is the final day. And with these few words, again, I'm welcoming to this platform, and this is over to you, ma'am. Yes, Ashaji.
Thank you so much, Abdul. And I really thank everyone for having me here. Thank you, Base. Thank you, Gaur Mahavidyalaya and Dr. Ambedkar College. Without any further delay, let me straight away launch into the session. And I would like to invite our first presenter, and I can see her name here, Dr. Rosy Yumnam. She's an assistant professor with Department of English Language Education, English Language and Foreign English and Foreign Languages University, Regional Campus Shillong, FLU, Shillong. And she will be presenting on a movement called Meira Paibi Movement of Manipur. The title of her presentation is A Feminist Reading of the Meira Paibi Movement of Manipur. So, Dr. Rosy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ma'am. Just a moment, I would like to share my slide. Just a moment. Yes. Yes. Is my slide visible, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Rosy Yumnam, and my topic today is a feminist reading of the Meira Paibi movement of Manipur. So I've structured my presentation in the following points. I'll quickly go to the introduction. The Meira Paibis, they are a group of women belonging to the Meitei community of Manipur. They are an informal group formed in each locality to fight against the social evils of the society, like drug addiction, sexual violence, and alcoholism. Slowly, they also extend their activities to air political and social grievances and to safeguarding human rights. They are also called the women guardians of the civil society, guarding through the streets at night, patrolling against all the inhuman injustice and atrocities meted out to individuals in the society. These are the Meira Paibis, they are at night, they patrol around. So this is the symbol, this is a symbolic torch they carry. So coming to feminism, feminism as a movement aims to enlighten and inform people with a common goal to improve social, cultural, economic, or political status of sexes. Feminism covers all ideologies, policies, and activities with the basic aim to get rid of unequal treatment against women and male domination in the society. And the main aim of feminism as a literary movement is to revolt against the patriarchal society, where the term feminine is related to passivity, weakness, inferiority, and obedience, and masculine is associated with the words domination, strength, superiority, and action. Now, Manipur is a patriarchal society, and like any other patriarchal society, women in Manipur too faced repressions in private as well as public domain. The gender violence pertaining to drug addiction, sexual violence, and alcoholism are a part of the society. Under these circumstances, the Meira Paibi movement becomes a symbol of resilience, fighting against the atrocities meted out to individuals. They contributed a vital role in maintaining and advocating peace in the society. And so the paper, the objective of my paper is to explore the feminist perspective of the Meira Paibi movement of Manipur, and also to look at how the Meira Paibi movement contributes to the informal education system of the society. In modern feminism, a significant phase was observed when Kate Millett, in her Sexual Politics, used the term patriarchy to describe. Patriarchy is a cardinal concept of the radical second wave feminists, who define it as, I quote, be here, a system of social structures and practices in which men dominate, oppress, and exploit women, unquote. So the concept of patriarchy leads to the development of many pertinent feminist ideas and programs. And Millett is of the view that an objective assessment of a sexual relationship should look at the situation between the sexes at the present time and throughout history in a subordinance and dominance relationship. The sexual dominance, Millett believes, is because, I quote, our society, like all other historical civilizations, is a patriarchy. And the reason is that all kinds of, as given by Millett, is that all kinds of institutions in the society, like universities, technology, political science, finance, police force, industry, etc., they are in the hands of males. So therefore, patriarchy is taken as a reason for female oppression. Furthermore, gender, according to Butler, is real only to the extent that it is performed. Butler's idea of gender as performance exists only because of the role of the gender. Her contention is applicable to argue the performance-centric movements as put forth by the gendered members in the society. Now, coming to the findings and observations. This is a picture of the Nupilan movement memorial of Imphal. Nupilan is also known as Nupi, the Women War. This Meira Paibi movement, it can be traced as way back to the Nupilan. This is also called Women's War of 1904 and 1939. The Meira Paibi movement originated way back in 1904 with a public demonstration against the British colonial administration. Women in large groups protested against Laluk Kaba, which is called forced labor of Manipuri men, where they succeeded. The British withdrew the practice in the same year. And in the 1970s, women started a mass movement called Meira Paibi movement to maintain peace and social order in Manipur. So it has its origin in this Nupilan movement. And they assisted in educating the alcoholics and the drug addicts of the menace of substance abuse as well. Now, the Meira Paibis are not only involved in gender issues, but also various other social and political issues in the society. Some years back, the Draconian Armed Forces Special Pass Act was put in certain parts of Northeast region in 1958. This act violates the Constitution of India and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as it provides complete impunity to the Indian military forces while operating in these regions, which include a large part of Manipur and the northeastern region. So the Meira Paibis have launched powerful protests against the AFSPA. On July 15, 2004, as has been shown in this picture, 12 mothers of Manipur, Meira Paibis of Manipur, disrobed themselves in front of the main paramilitary headquarters. They used their nakedness as a weapon against political operations. This protest was to denounce the rape and extra judicial killing of a 31-year-old woman named Tangzam Manorama. So in doing so, they have protested against years of discrimination, atrocities, human rights violation, and sexual violence by members of the Indian Army. A month after this protest, the state government withdrew this controversial UPSPA from 7 constitutions in the Imphal area. It's only the 7 constitutions. It's still there in the northeastern region. Now, the Meira Paibi successfully protested and liberated against the menace in the society, mainly related to issues pertaining to the power play of male dominance. Butler asserts that gender is related to performance. She further affirms that gender and doing gendered acts go hand in hand. Gender as identity exists because of performing the gendered acts. Butler contends that, I quote, identity is assured through the stabilizing concepts of sex, gender, and sexuality, unquote. So this identity is in reference to gender performity. The gendered performance of the Meira Paibis ranges from being a mother, wife, daughter, daily wage earner, political activist, professionals, besides being the Meira Paibis. So Butler's ideas are influential as the Meira Paibis, as conditioned by their gendered roles in the society, comes forward towards a resistant and a non-violent movement, again, making them a force to reckon with. So quickly going to Meira Paibi, educating the masses. Relatedly, we can also see that education is a process where values are inculcated to endow a person to lead a peaceful and harmonious life in the society. The Meira Paibis, with their zeal to safeguard the interest and well-being of the people in the society, have successfully created a space of a continuous education process to enlighten the people and guide them with values to lead a peaceful and harmonious life in the society. Concurrently, the Meira Paibis have played a pertinent role in building alternative institutions guarding against the evils of the society. They are in continuous fight handling crimes against women, including girl and women trafficking, ill treatment of women in the society, family disputes, providing shelter to many destitute women, and etc. and so on. So quickly I'll conclude. The roles of the Meira Paibis in their quest to bring social change created a narrative of a gendered performance, thereby contributing to the social, economic, and political upliftment of the society. The gendered performance of the Meira Paibis became successful in establishing a paradigm of bringing a positive change in the patriarchal society of Manipur. The educational institution they have built to fight social evils is an informal one. Nevertheless, they have struck a chord with the members of the society. And so the Meira Paibis, or the torch, the Meiras are the torch. The Meiras, those are the torch which they carry. They have become an epitome of peace and love. Thus, the Meira Paibis, or the torch bearers, as the name signifies, are indeed the torch bearers who inspire and lead the people in the society towards the valued goal of peace, hope, love, and work towards an evil-free society. Thank you for your patient listening. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Rosy. Sorry for hurrying you up. It seems that there are only 3 presenters, so we will get more time during Q&A session to discuss about your research presentation. So let me now invite the next presenter. This paper is written by 2 scholars, Rinchen Angmo and Dr. Shaifali Arora. Rinchen Angmo is a Ph.D. scholar and Dr. Shaifali Arora is an assistant professor at Department of English, Lovely Professional University, Punjab. And they will be presenting on the topic. The title of their presentation is Cultural Significance of Kesar Saga in Ladakhi Community, a case study of Saboo village in Leh. So welcome, Ms. Rinchen, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Time. We have time, it seems.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am, and to all the fellow participants. Warm greetings to you all from Leh. Actually, it's like very cold here right now. So before I start my presentation, I would like to thank the Base Conference organizers for organizing this conference and giving me the opportunity to present my paper. This is actually a joint paper by me and my supervisor, Dr. Shaifali Arora. as ma'am is not able to join the conference due to some unavoidable circumstances. So I'll be presenting the paper, ma'am. So the topic of my paper is Kesar Saga, which is an epic from Ladakh region. Now, Ladakh is best known for its unique beauty found in its barren desert and landscape and moonlit starry skies. It is a land rich in natural beauty, and is also a land rich in Himalayan folklore and folk ballads. It is situated in the northernmost part of India. It lies situated at an altitude of
Yes,
Is this my internet or I think screen is frozen?
Screen is frozen,
Oh.
actually.
Ma'am, I think there's a little bit
Yes.
of network problem because it's about to snow. So maybe because of that, ma'am.
Right, right. No
Yeah.
worries, no worries. Please
Yes.
continue.
Yes.
We actually lost you for like
Ma'am,
30 seconds, so you can repeat what you were
Yes,
saying.
ma'am.
ma'am, you
So,
can turn.
yes, sir.
I think he's trying to say that you can turn off your video
Yeah.
so that it will be more smoother and then can speak.
Yes, 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 ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So, due to its varied altitude, the vegetation of the region is quite sparse. Here we have only two types of trees are grown, like poplar and the willow tree. Some fruits are also grown locally here, like apples. We have walnut, we have apricot, etc. And two very important rivers flows from Ladakh. One is the Indus, and the other one is the Shyok River. And from the administrative point of view, the region lies divided into two districts. One is Leh and another one is Kargil. Then the winter is climatically very cold, hence not much activity takes place during winter. Mostly people stay indoors. So in the winter evenings till late night hours, all the family members sit together around the hearth and narrate different folk tales and folklores and folk ballads to pass the long cold winter nights. Mostly the epic Kesar, which is like my topic, is preferred by all, both the narrator and the listener. There are different kinds of stories. Some are short, and epics like Kesar Saga are quite long, which take several days to be told. Then the literary tradition in this part of the country is mostly in oral form, but now written documents are also available. Now, coming to Kesar, Kesar is one of the most important and widespread epic of the region. In the epic story, one finds several voices of its legendary hero, Kesar. The charismatic activity of the Kesar make the story more live and harmonizing. Due to the fact the people have not forgotten to narrate this story, and interestingly, in the 21st century itself, the story testifies that the same is a true story, which makes the listener and the narrator brave and courageous. Then, what I thought was to preserve this precious epic of the region and to make the people familiarize with regional literature. Usually, like for example, if we say Ladakh, people only look at from the tourist point of view. It has become a tourist hub now. But I just wanted to say to the larger audience that we have rich literature also, and which plays a very important role in our society. So, what I thought is will be made to document this epic case in the writing form so that we can bring this epic case in par with the other regional literature. And mostly the methodology of the paper is mainly I followed Indra Chaudhary cultural studies and Carlo Ginsberg microhistory. Now, coming to the Saboo village, on the basis of the interviews which I've taken from native people and their perspectives will be explored. So the epic story is very much part and parcel of Ladakhi community, be it a Buddhist or a Muslim, where every individual knows about it and people have grown up listening to this epic. And interestingly, the All India Radio Leh also transmits the Kesar epic frequently to make the people aware and revive this important folk literature, which is in a dying state. People have different views regarding whether the epic is myth or a reality. So according to the people I've interviewed, both this exist. Then coming to the narration of the epic Kesar seems to have begun from the lower part of Ladakh, which is close towards Baltistan, because this story was very popular in the place called Wanla, which is situated in the lower part of Ladakh. And even today, most of the people have good knowledge of the epic compared to the other parts of the region. Then scholars in Ladakh also believe that kings of Ladakh in the olden days kept fighting with their neighboring states. And so therefore, to encourage the soldiers to fight against their enemies in the war, as well as to defeat them, such stories, especially the Kesar saga, was narrated before them to instill confidence and to make them courageous. Both male and female can narrate these epic stories, and there is no gender disparity. Anyone who possesses a sound knowledge of the Kesar epic can narrate it. And the best time to narrate this epic Kesar in Ladakh is in the winter months, as climatically the weather is very harsh, like minus 35, minus 40. And second coldest place in is in Ladakh, that's the Dras region. So with frequent snowfall, so not much of a work is there to do. So to pass the time and to keep them entertained, usually most of the people indulge themselves in narrating the stories, especially the epic Kesar, in their respective household. On the other hand, there is no agriculture work or any other form of work to do in winter time. Then coming to different versions of the epic Kesar, we have Ladakhi epic Kesar version, we have Tibetan version, we have Mongolian version, we have Bhutan, we have Buryat, and almost everywhere Kesar is used, remembered as a hero. Then the cultural and religious significance of Kesar. If from an egalitarian outlook, Kesar, his birth, his marriage, and then defeating the evil's enemies are all very interesting. It keeps the listeners occupied and focused. In praise of Kesar, we have congregational songs and dances, especially in, like, obviously in praise of Kesar. Till today, we, the people of Ladakh, occasionally perform these dances and sing the song. There are some interesting songs which we find in Ladakhi tradition, and while singing or listening to these songs, one can get some glimpses of Kesar's life and deeds. And then Kesar as a deity is also worshipped, respected, and followed by the Buddhist community of the Ladakh. And likewise, Muslim community respects the Kesar saga, which can be noted in these interviews. So people believe that Kesar is omnipresent. He has taken birth to take care of innocent and poor people, to guide them and help them. Now, regardless of many political and like communal tensions seen in many parts of the country, respecting, following, and believing in Kesar epic as a spiritual figure or a national heroic figure in Leh Ladakh is an egalitarian example of how different communities in the region, such as Buddhist and the Muslims, continue to share a common folk cultural epic, believes in the same stories, have similar cultural practices. Now, I'll just conclude. In a nutshell, Kesar story depicts the brave deeds of brave Ladakhis who live in this inhospitable climatic condition, facing the challenges for their survival. To understand the past glory of the bygone times of this Himalayan region, stories like Kesar plays a very important role in reviving the past glory and help us to know the harsh life carried by our ancestors for centuries. Now, in the changed scenario, due to the availability of modern amenities, like the younger generation especially, are forgetting and distancing themselves from the tradition, culture, folk. So, to make the native people and the outside world aware about the past glory, the epic like Kesar plays a very important role to make the youth understand the past and educate them regarding the importance of this regional literature. The people I've interviewed also mentioned that the epic Kesar should be written and documented as it is fast vanishing. Kesar is the only saga which keeps the people intact and help in recalling our past and creating a bond between the past and the present. In the past, epic Kesar was performed and dramatized frequently, but now this tradition is fast declining, which as an individual need to ponder upon. Ladakh being a cold region where the temperature dips down to minus 35 degree, and right now it's like I think if I'll check, it's minus 20. So in the winter season there isn't much work to do outside, there is no much activities takes place in the winter season. So to keep oneself engaged and to pass the time, one important activity which keeps the people engaged is the storytelling. There are different stories which is found in the region, and amongst all, the case story of Kesar is narrated widely and loved by all sections of the society. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for the patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinchen. Very interesting paper, and would like to know more about the figure Kesar. And let's see whether we have time during Q&A session to discuss
Sure.
it more.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. Very
Thank you so much.
interesting and very, yeah.
Thank you.
So let me invite the next presenter. I can see Nasima. Nasima, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Hello, can you hear
Hi,
me?
hi. Yes, yes. So
Yes.
welcome, Nasima. Nasima, I know her from the center as well, and currently she is an assistant professor with Acharya Girish Chandra Bose College. And without any further delay, because we have to conclude by 7,
Yes.
let me invite Nasima. Her title is Living Together Separately, a Comparative Study of Bengali / Bengal-origin Muslims in the 2 Indian states of West Bengal and Assam. Go ahead,
Yes.
Nasima.
Just give me 1 minute, ma'am. Let me just share the yeah. Right. Okay, something is happening here. Can you see my screen by any chance?
No, not yet, not yet.
Okay, wait. Okay, it is saying I'm already sharing, but wait. A tab. Okay.
Um, do you want me to share from my end if it's not showing? Or
One
you can
second,
send it to
ma'am.
the meeting post if they can, like everyone is allowed to share, right?
1 second. I think.
Yeah, even I can share
Can you
my.
can you can you
Yeah, yeah, I
see
can
my
see it.
screen now?
Yes,
Right.
yes, yes,
Okay. 1 second. Is this seen now?
yes, yes. The PPT is visible.
Yes. So, as Asha ma'am introduced, the title of my paper is "Living Together Separately," and it is basically a comparative study of Okay, my voice is echoing. I'm hearing
Yes,
my own voice. Is something is
yes,
going wrong, I guess, but okay, now it's fine. Okay.
yes.
Sorry for the inconvenience. So it is a comparative study of the two states, two neighboring states, Assam and West Bengal. And basically, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to mostly show that how for Bengali Muslims of West Bengal and Assamese Bengal origin or Bengali Assamese Muslims, the identitarian negotiations, how the identitarian negotiations for these two groups are difficult and still important, and how they are doing that, and how in this entire negotiation the idea of Muslimness is very important, because that is something which is being pitted against other identitarian markers that these groups, which have always been marginalized and minoritized, have been pitted against. Okay, so the conceptual mapping out of the paper looks like this. I will talk about the invisibilization of the Bengali or Bengaliness, then hypervisibilization of the Muslim or Muslimness. And so that's why the beating against is happening. So this is an either or version where Bengali versus Muslim is, created. That sort of a binarization is created. I'll talk about that. And then I'll talk about how the reclamation of identities are happening by the two groups of Bengali Muslims in Assam and West Bengal, and the entire thing is being played out when the notion of Hindutva is reconfiguring itself in a de facto, that Christoph Jafflot has argued time and again, that how India has become a Hindu Rashtra, which is de facto an ethnic democracy, if not de jure, even if it's not declared, even if there is constitution and electoral democracy still somehow installed in place, but we know how things are happening. So it's a de facto ethnic democracy or Hindu Rashtra. So within that Hindu Rashtra, how these groups are doing their identitarian negotiation, that is what I'm interested in. And in this entire thing, as I said, weaponizing of Muslimness as an identitarian marker is being used, especially in the wake of an unequal citizenship regime that India is fast gesturing towards. In the context of West Bengal, we all have been brought up while hearing these very binary formations of our two identities, right? So, I, being a Bengali Muslim, I have always heard people telling me, "Are you a Bengali or a Muslim?" So, as if so, there have been a systematic and structural deprivation mechanisms of deprivation, which was there, and we have been marginalized. Muslims, as Bengali Muslims, have always been marginalized in terms of education and employment. And then there is this entire rhetoric where the Bengali Muslims are even deprived of their hyphenated identities. So, and why so? Because of some form of Hinduization, a massive Hinduization of the very category of Bengali has happened successfully over the years. So that's why the very idea that 3 crore Bengali Muslims even exist in Bangla, West Bengal, is not registered in the popular imaginary or the common sense of the majoritarian popular psyche. And underrepresentation or stereotyping of the figure of the Musalman Bengali or Bengali Musalman has happened in cultural and literary products. We know that very well, and that is why there is a void and misconception. So that has also contributed to the deprivation of the self-representation of Bengali Muslims. Now, in the context of Assam, something similar is happening, but of course, that scenario is very different from West Bengal. So, in West Bengal, your Bengali identity, if you are a Muslim, your Bengali identity is not visibilized, it is invisibilized, but just the opposite is happening in Assam. So, in Assam, there is this community called Mia, and who are the Mias? Mias are mostly an immigrant agrarian community who from the 19th century onwards, who migrated from both East Bengal and later Bangladesh, and settled in Assam for for because they were looking for greener pastures, right? So these Bengali origin migrant communities, they settled in Churchapuri areas, and because they were Bengalis, or they hailed from Bengal, and also because they had this entire Muslim identity attached as well, they were never considered Assamese. And we know what are the ramifications of it. In the wake of NRC, at least 6 lakh of Bengal origin Assamese Muslims were, their names were taken off the list of NRC. And yeah, so mostly because I'm running short of time, I'm skipping these 2-3 slides where I am basically discussing why and how they are marginalized, the Mia Muslims in Assam. And they have been at the receiving end of targeted discrimination, demonization, and physical and both epistemic violence. And by epistemic violence, I mean some sort of cultural erasure has happened to their community, just the way it has happened to us, the West Bengali Muslims. Witch hunting of Mias, they were attacked in 1960s, 1970s, and we all know how the Nelly massacre of 1983 happened, where more than 3,000 people were massacred, and then there are multiple attacks on Bengali Assamese Muslims by Bodo militants. And also now in the current scenario, in the name of eviction drives, Assam police is again oppressing them. We know how Moinul Haq was, murdered by the Assam police, and his dead body was stomped on by the so-called state-sponsored camera person who happens to be an Assamese, like pure Assamese, so-called. Right. This is the family of Moinul Hasan who died, the Bengali Muslim Assamese man. So now why it is happening? It is happening because in the national level as well, on the national level as well, and especially when it comes to Assam, some sort of anti-Muslim Hindutva politics is being played out very strategically. And scholars have argued that how the anti-immigrant sentiment that was there in Assam from the very beginning of Assam movement, that was very strategically converted into an anti-Muslim sentiment. So Assamese are by default against immigration because that is somehow, according to them, harming their entire demography and their job opportunities and everything. But that is being hijacked and transformed into purely anti-Muslim sentiment by the Hindutva politics in Assam. And we know how Sangh Parivar made inroads into Assam. All right, and what are the ramifications? Of course, the ramifications, as I suggested, a lot of people were, like, more than 6 lakh Muslims were, name of Muslims were taken down from the NRC list. They were sent to, many of them were sent to detention centers, and a climate of fear psychosis prevailed, and CA was introduced. And we know what CA is. It is mostly excluding, it is to exclude Muslims from the citizenship regime. So can the Assam Muslim talk back? Of course, the Assam Muslims are talking back. They are trying to negotiate their Bengali and Muslim identities, and they're saying that these two identities are not necessarily exclusive to each other, but they can be very much co-aligned, and they are Assamese and still they are Muslim. So that sort of a cultural and literary political enunciation is happening by them through larger Mia movement. And we know Mia poetry is a beautiful result of that larger Mia movement. All right, these are diverse forms of Mia articulation. They have used social media beautifully and very strategically to register and visualize their protests. Now coming to Bengal. Can the Bengali Muslim in West Bengal talk back? Assamese Muslims, Bengali Assamese Muslims are talking back. Can we as Bengali Muslims talk back? So my findings are, yeah, they are also very much talking back. There is no silencing happening. They are talking back, and we know how anti-NRCCA and NPR movements across Bengal were successful. The entire park circus movement, and there were other sit-in protests in across West Bengal, even in jelas, even in districts, even in interior districts. So with so much enthusiasm, Bengali Muslims took part in the anti-NRCCA and NPR movement. So that was an uprising of a silent revolution of Bengali Muslims, especially Bengali Muslim women who registered their protest. Anti-farmer agitation in Bengal in solidarity also happened. We saw how both in Bengali Muslims and Bengali Hindus took part in anti-farmers agitation, and people from Singh and Tikri borders came to visit Bengal, and in Bengal they had a good response. Recent spectacular defeat of BJP during the latest assembly election in Bengal also, hint towards the fact that Bengali Muslims are very much hell-bent on rejecting all sorts of majoritarian xenophobic politics and anti-Muslim politics in Bengal. Rise of a tiny but very vocal Bengali Muslim middle class is there. So the silver lining is there. West Bengal did not have a middle class, but now credit goes to reservation and all other forms of communal, endeavors from the community, that there is a rise of Bengali Muslim middle class in West Bengal, and they are articulating their literary cultural life through different activities. Various civil society activities like Bangla Sangskriti Mancho, Know Your Neighbor, People Film Collective, No Vote to BJP campaigns, which were where Muslims also took part, and also most importantly Base, which is a part of this, which is one of the organizers of this conference. All these civil society endeavors and activities are registering that Bengali Muslims are talking back, and they are not shying away from reclaiming their identities both as Muslims and as Bengalis. And so, what is the roadmap ahead? I argue the roadmap looks like something like this. So there has to be a radical identitarian negotiation where celebration of different identitarian markers has to happen simultaneously. We have to ensure that we are not reduced to only our immediate religious identity, which is Muslim, and then also we'll have to ensure that our Muslim or religious identity is not erased or invisibilized. So that kind of a balancing out has to happen. Configuration of the new Musalman vis-a-vis the regional and statist identitarian marker. So by this I mean we have to rethink the very idea of a new Musalman or new Muslim, because this Muslim, as I said, does not, but should have the moral courage to declare that she or he has these layered hyphenated identities, and all these identities are not, they are not necessarily canceling each other out, rather they are in a synergy. We are Bengali Muslims, and there is a beautiful harmony to it. And forging of intra-subaltern solidarities and creation of chains of equivalence. So post-Marxist thinkers like Ernesto Laclau and Chantal Mouffe, they have propagated this notion of chains of equivalence, where they are mostly trying to argue that there are different disadvantaged groups, marginalized and minoritized groups within a society. So we'll have to make sure that those groups come under the same umbrella and form some sort of equivalence. That does not mean that they will be similar or they will become same overnight. No, they will be very distinct social political groups. They will retain their individuality and still be able to form some sort of common ground, which will create, as I am putting it this way, intra-subaltern solidarity. So because they are minoritized and marginalized by the same power block, the hegemon, so in order to challenge that hegemony, Muslims, along with different other disadvantaged groups, for example, Dalits and peasants, have to come forward for larger new social movements. And as I said, we know how that happened. During the peasant movements, Muslims took part enthusiastically in the peasant movement, and my hunch is, so the fact that peasant movement was, made null and void because the demands were meted out, or in the process of being meted out, it is somehow, I don't know, if this scenario wasn't there, maybe we could have looked forward to a more radical version of peasant Dalit Muslim sort of a solidarity. I'm not sure what will happen to that, but as somebody who believes in the notion of democracy and in the spirit of mass movements, we definitely should look forward to what Chantal Mouffe and Ernest Laclau are talking about in the form of chains of equivalence. Okay, that's it from my side right now. I very much love to look forward to the question answer session.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Nasima. Sorry, we are actually
Yeah, I
running
am
out
running
of
short of
time,
time.
and we have to conclude this by 7. So let me straight away go to the next presenter, and she is the last presenter of the evening, Arunita Sanyal. So, Arunita, are you around? I can see your name.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Arunita is MPhil scholar at Jadavpur University History Department, and she can straight away launch into her presentation. I will not read the title which she is going to present. You have 10 minutes to go, Arunita. Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Displacement and the making of the hill station Darjeeling a case study. When we are speaking about homelessness and belonging, it hints at a history of displacement in a distant or an immediate past. And over here, we have tried to explore one such episode of displacement in the history of South Asia. The attempt had been at reconstructing the history of the Darjeeling Hills from the perspective of the inhabitants of the region and its surroundings. And while doing this, it leads us to a story of displacement, which is both physical and cultural in nature. Now, with the coming of colonial rule to the Darjeeling Hills, it underwent a massive transformation. I'm not reiterating it, but just to brief it, there were massive building projects, roads, railways, administrative buildings, hotels. The tea cultivation took place on a commercial level, and basically, Darjeeling became incorporated into the network of the capitalist market economy, and it became the base for the exploitation of the entire hilly tract of Darjeeling, Karshing, and Kalimpong. Now, the question is, how did it affect the inhabitants who have been already there before the colonial takeover? If we look at one such group of inhabitants, the Lepchas, they were the shifting cultivators over here. Uh, let's look at how the colonial rule brought changes and large scale displacements from their own uh, way of living and their cultural cosmos. So, first comes a monetized economy, which was again not uh, present prior to the colonial rule. Air Fawning, the Lepcha activist, in his book, he writes that wealth was actually measured in terms of healthy domestic animals and a lot of number of chickens, a bumper crop of vegetables and fruits, and not in terms of money. And there was no concept of private ownership over here. But these property relations, they change with the coming of the with the colonial rule. New agricultural techniques are now being imposed on them. Their old methods of shifting cultivation is being increasingly frowned upon by the colonial administration, especially the forest department. The forest department, interestingly, it now takes control over the entire forested region of Darjeeling, which once, as the Lepchas claim, had been their original habitat. Uh, with the coming of the with the forest department taking control of these regions, the entire flora and fauna of the region changes. There is certain areas were increasingly reserved for systematic exploitation, and that was increasingly restricting the rights of the Lepchas to the forest products, which had been a very crucial part in their livelihoods. Plus, with the introduction of tea on a commercial level, large amounts of land was needed, and the solution came in 1861 with the Westland regulations, whereby the common lands of these shifting cultivators were converted and said that these were Westlands because these were not generating any revenue for the colonial administration. And after unleashing all this havoc on the lepcha shifting cultivators, the colonial records address the case of the lepchas as that these are shy and timid people. They could not keep pace with the coming of modernity and in advanced agricultural techniques that were being brought in by the Nepalese cultivators. And as a result, they were pushed to the more remote interiors. Uh, Especially if we look at a comment by H. Risley, he says that, okay, uh, the timber in the forest have been continuously stripped off by the European tea planters and the Nepalese agriculturists. The forest department, yes, it was against the primitive methods of cultivation by the tribe. So what? Uh, Even after all of these, we don't really understand why the lepchas are actually declining. And this has actually been the story which was repeated time and again in the gazetteers, in the census handbooks, and even in the guidebooks that came up. A number of guidebooks came up by the end of the 19th century on Darjeeling. If we look at the lepcha perspective of how they are explaining their plight, there's one particular case in point I would like to highlight. Fawning narrates the story of his grandfather, Takshering, and how he tries to cope up with these new circumstances. He's trying to learn about the new value of money economy and trying to adjust to that, but at the same time, he is not being able to understand the new rules of how money is lended, how the interest is calculated, the new laws. Uh, when he was actually cheated and he had to forfeit all his property, and he was called to appear in front of the court. Fawning writes that his grandfather was too timid to appear in front of the court, and ultimately, according to the new regulation, uh, he had to forfeit his property. And this was not just property in the sense that we mean. This was the land that his ancestors had prepared, had cultivated, the house that he and his families had their roots. So it was not just mere physical displacement, but it was cultural also. Uh, a new sense of time was imposed on them. Their language was soon was increasingly wiped out of uh, the official usage. Their places of worship was being increasingly appropriated by the new immigrants. While this was the case with the Lepchas, another group who actually formed the majority of Darjeeling's population were the Gorkhas, and uh, a section of the Gorkha population, they had settled here prior to the colonial takeover in the late 18th century, and the sort of displacement that they go through, it's very beautifully portrayed in Asit Rai's work, Ne Kshitij Ki Khoj. He portrays the kind of apprehensions that come with the colonial takeover, the way the colonial administrators are portrayed, that these are new people who are coming, who they eat, uh, beef, and they carry guns, and they are now coming and usurping our land. There are apprehensions in people out of this entire chaotic situation. They decide that no, let's leave this Darjeeling and go back to the Pahad. Let's go back to Nepal. Uh, their displacement, if we look at the archival records, if you look at the Westland records, there are a number of reports which show how land was actually sold over the heads of the riots. Uh, the riots were still cultivating the land, they were paying the revenue, yet these lands were declared as Westland and then sold to the planters. And these riots were simply left to the mercy of the new lazy. A particular episode in Asit Rai's Nai Kshitij Ki Khoj, if we look there, there's this character called Shurveer Gurung, and he's saying, जहाँ साहिब की कोठी है, पहले वहाँ हमारी गौशाला थी, उसके ऊपर घर था, और ये सारे पहाड़ों में मैं और मेरे भाइयों के साथ खेलता था. So this entire landscape, which used to be this entire indigenous landscape, which used to be theirs, they used to use it in their own way. It's now completely, it now has a complete different use. It's been completely usurped by these new colonial masters. At the same time, there were also a section of Gorkhas who were coming here and through the old patron-client networks, and they were working here as wage laborers and tea coolies. For them, it's again a case of displacement, because coming to Mughalen was also about leaving their roots in Nepal. And once this displacement takes place, it's a continuous process. It goes on. And if we look at Indra Bahadur Rai's work, Hame Jastai Maina Ki Amma, there's a particular scene in the bazaar where Maina's mother, she notices the household items of a typical Nepali household being put on sale. And for her, it's like the entire disruption of the home, the values and the customs that were associated with the pre-capitalist system brought in by this new colonial economy. And this was actually it was actually, in conclusion, I would say that it was actually this displacement, the sense of acute displacement, that gave birth to the identity politics amongst especially the Nepalese section of Darjeeling population. And later on, it went on to the claims of belonging to India as their homeland for the Indians of Nepalese origin. And these literatures, the pieces of literary production that we have seen over here, they are actually no way they're no way separate from this entire identity politics and politics of asserting claims over India, and in this case over Darjeeling. And yes, they actually articulate the aspirations of these displaced communities over the years, and it's best represented if we look at Asit Rai's comment, where he's actually stating that Darjeeling belongs to us and Darjeeling is like us. He compares the land to the very fundamental elements in their everyday existence, of their identity, like the grandfather's stick, or the basket that they carry on their back, or the father's kurta pajama. And this sense of assertion is actually also represented in his characters. They also speak in the same assertive tone. For example, if we look at one case.
Arunita, sorry to interrupt. You have to actually conclude. We are, running out of time.
Yeah, this is the last section. He uses a very particular phrase, "Jad jama lena." Okay, it's an assertion that I have settled over here and I have established my roots over here, and I'm not leaving this place no matter who comes and who starts ruling over me. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that the history of making a home for the colonizer away from the home that is in metropole, many more homes got displaced. And over here, we have just taken up the case of two particular communities, but there are many more communities who got displaced, and that leaves us with a scope to further carry forward with this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arunita. And there were two more presenters, but I can't see their names in the participant list. So I think we are now coming to the end of the session, and we just have 5 minutes left. So what do we do, Abdul? Should we conclude it? Because I can see the speaker of the plenary session already here. Though I have listed down few questions for the presenters, but I think they won't be able to respond to these questions because we are already out of time. So what do we do? Should we conclude the session now so that you can get on with your next session?
With the permission of Niladri sir, like if you can at least just raise the question so that the speakers maybe later on they could engage, maybe at least, I mean, like.
Yes, I think that probably, no, I mean, I'm completely in agreement. I think that there should be some discussion. So let the questions be asked and let the speakers have a chance to respond. And
Thank you so much,
after
sir.
that, I can take over. I'm sure that should not be a problem. No problem.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Chatterjee. Actually, in the chat box, I can see one comment, and I think it is for Nasima. Debabrata Adhikari, but we will go turn-wise. The first presenter was Dr. Rosy Yumnam from FLU, and actually I had a question for Dr. Rosy. Are you around, Dr. Rosy? Is she around?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, when you were talking about that group, Meira Paibi movement, and these women, Matai women who are, you know, they have become an alternative force to conduct a movement against patriarchy. But I felt that if you could say more about their social location, class location, and I could not actually get a lot of sense about who actually they are, like where are they located, how do they come together, what is their pedagogy. So that would be good if you could respond. And let me ask all the question. Meanwhile, you can ponder upon it. Let me ask questions from other presenters as well, and then I'll come back to you so that you can respond to this question. So who are these women? What is their social location, class location? If you could unpack it a bit. My question to Rinchen and Shaifali Arora's paper, she presented on a very interesting figure called Kesar of
Yes, ma'am.
Ladakh, and
Yes,
it seems that this
yes.
figure is a folk hero or a folk deity which is
Right.
famous and
Yes.
sort of revered by all the communities, and not just
Yes.
Buddhists and Bengalis Buddhists and
Muslims.
Muslims residing in Ladakh, but
Ladakh.
there are narratives in Tibetan language and Ladakhi. There is Bhutanese version, so there are different versions. So I would like
Versions.
to know whether all of these versions are performed in the same language, or there are, the same folk deity is present in different languages, and do they interact with each other? Like, how do they, how it unfolds? Because this is a folk hero which is present across languages and across communities. So, what language is this,
Right. Epic.
performance in? So, this is a question. And what is your concern? Like, preservation is your concern, but you have been saying that even Doordarshan is broadcasting it. People are constantly narrating these stories during winters. So, what is the concern of a paper? Is revivalism a concern of a paper, or is it more than that? Is a question I would like to ask. Okay, and you can respond to it. You can
Yes, yes,
think
yes,
over
ma'am.
it till I
Absolutely.
come back to you.
Okay.
And to Nasima, I was wondering that is the religion only axis which determines Bengaliness? Like, what about non-Muslims Bengalis? Like, all non-Muslims who are residing in Bengal are considered equally Bengali, is my question to you. Um, and to Arunita, I would like to know more about, because you have been specifically mentioning about this one particular community, Lepcha community, and then in your abstract, you also mentioned about this other community which was affected by displacement. So I could not get a lot of sense about the other community, and how are you, bringing these two communities against the other communities who are supposedly colonizers? Like, what is the rationale behind putting these two communities separate from the other communities who have been residing in Darjeeling since, many centuries now? So what is the cutoff from which one becomes the settler and one becomes the, colonizer or migrant, is my question to you. So yes, meanwhile, I'll ask others to write their questions in the chat box, and I'll go back to Dr. Rosy. Dr.
Yes.
Rosy,
Yes,
yes,
miss. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, yes, the Meira Paibi movement, the Meira Paibis are actually, they are an informal group, and they are formed in each locality of of the places where the Meiteis inhabited here in Manipur, right? And the Meira Paibis, they can be anyone again. They can be professionals, they can be housewives, right? They can be teachers, doctors, engineers, they can be anybody, right? So they come together, and then we have this, how do how they come, how they meet. They have their own system. They have a club, local club, and they come together, and they have a way to organize. So it's there, and yes, they do help. They do help, and they really play a very important role in the society. Informal, yes, education, and then yes, they have been playing a very important role till today. Yes, ma'am. They are located everywhere where Meiteis are there. The community, the Meitei communities are there in Manipur. They are located everywhere.
Like, are they working professionals, or like,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
registered
They
group?
be working.
Is
Yes.
this group registered under Society Registration Act, or how are they,
No,
like,
no, no,
how do they come
no,
together?
no. It's
Yeah.
no. They are not registered, but it's an informal group. They are not registered, and we do not have any registration and all. They come together, like it's like a social work, and they come together for the betterment of that locality. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Have I answered the question,
Yes,
ma'am?
yes.
I
Thank
hope.
you. Thank you,
Yes.
Dr. Rosy.
And because of the paucity of time, I was not able to read my entire paper, ma'am. Yeah.
I understand. Thank
Otherwise,
you.
I have everything. Whatever you wanted, I have everything in my paper.
Thank you. I'm
Thank you,
sure
ma'am.
we'll get to
Yeah,
hear
for
a
the
bit
very
more,
yes. Thank you, ma'am, for your
yeah,
question,
in
for
some
your
other
observation.
platforms. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so Ms. Rinchen, you can
Yes,
respond.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes. So, ma'am, this Kesar epic, it's in Tibetan language, but in Ladakh, the script is same, man. Tibetan and Ladakhi, the script is same, but the dialects are different. So, like for example, in Ladakh we have Kesar, and in Tibet also we have Kesar. So the story is almost same. They also consider Kesar as the second Buddha. Also, we also like consider it because of the religion, right? Buddhist. And if going to Mongolia and then Buryat and then Baltistan, they I think they say it as Gesar. Gesar, but again it's the same, it's just the language, ma'am. And secondly, like in Ladakh, it's almost like a tribal area, so it's most of the literatures are in oral form. So as a individual, like I've got a chance to study outside Leh. like because usually it's very difficult to go outside and study because of like financial and everything. So I got a chance to study in Dehradun. Then I studied in LSR Delhi. And I got a chance to study there also. Then I did everything from Jammu University. Then so working as a government servant. Now, as an individual, I felt that I should bring this epic into a written form, so that the younger generation, they could relate to it. Otherwise, it's been like in oral form, people are just, mixing their own ideas into it. So it's like getting vanishing also. Now nobody wants to listen to this story also. Otherwise, so what I felt is I should bring this into a written form. So, and then we have lot of dramatization also now. So people are doing lot of theater on Kesar, and these things are which are like, almost forgetting on the edge. Now again it is like coming back to life. And interestingly now, Ladakh has become a tourist destination. So in like in the hotels, and then in some theater, they are performing this dances also, mask dance, which is obviously the dance and the praise of Kesar. So Kesar is more like a hero, so people are really, whenever we say Kesar, all of a sudden everybody has that respect. And irrespective of whether you're a Muslim or whether you're a Buddhist, whether you're Shia Muslim, whether you're a Sunni Muslim, so everyone respects this Kesar as a hero. So yes, ma'am, this is how it is. And the script is in Tibetan script. So we have the same script, but the way how it is transferred is different. Right,
Thank
ma'am?
you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rinchen.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, Asha.
Yes.
Can I go? Okay. First of all, thank you for your question.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
gonna
yes.
take that up first. So yeah, you're very right. So apart from the religion question, there is caste and class, which makes the Mia Bengali Muslims more disadvantaged than even the non-Muslim Bengalis residing in the Borak Valley. Okay. And also there is this ideological question as well. So many of people from the Borak Valley who happen to be Bengalis but not Muslims, that is Hindu Bengalis, they were the supporters of Bharatiya Janata Party. Okay, so when their names also did not, come up on the NRC list, then the entire CA thing got more mobilized, right? Because this government has to salvage the kind of damage that they had created already. So that CA was, in my opinion, some sort of a damage control, because they thought only the Mias would be rejected from the NRC list, but also the non-Muslim Bengalis also got rejected. So that's my point. So class, caste, and ideological markers also made they also factored in, and that's what made Bengali Muslims more disadvantaged than the rest of the immigrant population residing in Assam. The second question, which Mr. In the chat box I can see, Mr. Devabrata Odhikari has put up a question. That's an interesting question. Okay, so before engaging with the question, let me just put up this information. So in 2021, UNESCO just recognized Durga Puja as the intangible cultural heritage. Okay, so that's, we all should take pride in, and definitely I take pride in that. But you see, Bengal is the very state where 3 crore to more than 27% Bengali Muslims reside, and Durga Puja is the Sarbojonin Puja, Sarbojonin Utsav. The Bengali-ness is represented by Durga Puja. I don't have any issue with that. Even UNESCO recognized that. So who am I to object to that? But you understand, here in the very same Bengal, Eid ul Zoha and Eid ul Fitr only gets 2 2 holidays. So there has always been a cultural invisibilization and cultural erasure of the Bengali Muslim Janojibon, or Bengali Muslim cultural landscape. So definitely, I'm very right on my point. I'm sorry to because I'm very much differing from what Devabrata sir has put up, and also Okay, talking of madrasa, so madrasa as a space, as an institution, has always been looked down upon as the bomb bandhar karkhana. So how can you say? Of course, I would love to believe that madrasa education has somehow contributed to the overall empowerment of the disadvantaged Muslims from the interior villages. That's all right. But how is it represented in the popular public sphere? Madrasas are still looked down upon. So that also adds to the overall invisibilization, or if I may use the word, demonization of Bengali Muslims when it comes to the cultural representation of Bangla.
There is, Nasima, one more question, and I think it's an important question.
Okay.
Salina Begum, she has asked why Bengali Muslims are OBCs.
Okay, so Bengali
It's a
Muslims,
recent phenomenon. Yeah, yeah.
the very notion of OBC itself is a very recent phenomenon, and also after so much of mobilization, Bengali Muslims have been given the OBC status, and still there is this creamy layer and non-creamy layer differentiation. Okay, and Bengali Muslims are OBCs. That's because they have always been disadvantaged and marginalized. If you look at the Sachar committee report, and also in the post-Sachar era, the Kundu committee evaluation report, you would understand there has always been a large section from the Bengali Muslim demography who do not have proper jobs, who do not have employment, do not have even basic primary level education. So definitely they deserve the OBC rights. And very shamefully, even after getting the OBC rights, OBC implementation of OBC reservation is not happening properly. And so many of us are fighting against that. We are calling out on those cases. So even if Bengali Muslims are given OBC status, they are still way behind than even the Dalits. So yeah.
Thank you, Nasima. And let me finally call the last presenter, Arunita. Arunita, are you still around? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. As to the question of why I stopped short at these two communities, okay, Darjeeling, it's inhabited by a number of ethnic communities, and if I go on talking about all kinds of displacement about all of these communities, it's going to be a huge paper. So just to keep it short, I stuck to these two communities. And as to the question of who becomes the native aboriginal person and who becomes the outsider, this is actually, in my argument, it's actually a construction of the colonial records. And the attempt over here had been to unpack the lived experiences of these two communities, because they are mostly these two communities are actually pitted against each other in the colonial records. So just to unpack their lived experiences and see that the displacement was not so much caused by one community invading the land of another. It was basically because of the changes brought in by the colonial administration that these people are actually being constantly displaced.
Thank you, Arunita. So let me now conclude the session because it's already 7:15. And thank you all the presenters. Thank you, Bose and other organizers for having me here. And over to you, Abdul. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Now this is over to Jahira to formally propose vote of thanks. Jahira.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Matin sir, for allowing me to speak. So we have absolutely come to the very end of the paper presentations and the technical sessions. And this is, as this was the last technical session of the conference of 2021, organized by Bengali Academia for Social Empowerment in collaboration with Ambedkar Center for Social and Cultural Studies, Gaur Mahavidyalaya, and the Department of English, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar College, Nadia. Now, on behalf of Bose and both the two colleges, I would like to take this opportunity to extend our heartiest thanks to Dr. Asha Singh ma'am for chairing the session so well, for coordinating all the papers. Thank you so much, ma'am. We are very much grateful to you for this thing, and we absolutely look forward to have you as our speaker, for our future conference and future events. And so, yeah, we are looking forward to it. And thanks to all the paper presenters and all the participants who have been with us throughout the conference consistently. We really are thankful to all of you. Without your support, we couldn't have organized this conference. So yeah, we are absolutely running late behind the schedule. So I would like to conclude this session with this few words. Thank you, everyone. Please stay safe, and we will just begin the next plenary in a couple of minutes. Thank you so much. And now this is over to you, Hassan.